My wife lied about our kid being the CEO's. A DNA test proved she had cheated for years. I took a harsh revenge. Her life fell apart, and now she regrets betraying our marriage. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about the kind of gut-wrenching injustice that changes you forever, the kind that pushes you to your absolute limit, until you realize the only way out is through a firestorm of your own making. And trust me, the woman who shattered my life, my ex-wife Jennifer, she never saw this coming. Hey, I'm Mark. Before I dive into the absolute madness of what happened, let me give you a quick picture. I've always been someone who takes care of himself, running, swimming, hitting the gym. I'm fit, with a solid build, and I've worked hard for my education, earning degrees from Oxford. I owned a computer repair business and was pouring my heart into developing a groundbreaking software program. My younger sister, Patty, she's my rock, a brilliant lawyer in New York. We share everything. My ex-wife, Jen, was a corporate lawyer. Beautiful, vibrant red hair, green eyes. We met through our sisters at a graduation party. We clicked instantly, fell in love, and 6 months later, we were married. Life was good. We had a comfortable home, nice cars, and decent incomes. We were happy. Then, about 2 years in, things started to shift. Jen got a promotion. Suddenly, she was working later, going out more with friends on weekends. I started feeling this knot in my stomach. Call it paranoia, but I just had a bad feeling. I even tried to follow her once, but everything seemed normal. Still, that unease wouldn't leave me. At the same time, I felt stuck in my own job. So, I decided to take a leap and start my own computer repair company, focusing on business security. Jen wasn't thrilled. She questioned why we should take risks when things were stable, meaning she was doing well and I wasn't. Our finances were separate, except for a joint account for bills. I took a loan on our house, quit my job, and dove in. Within 3 months, I was breaking even. Things were looking up. Then, one evening, Jen hit me with it. She was 3 months pregnant. Twins. My mind immediately flashed back to a week she'd spent in Miami for work. A chilling doubt began to creep in. She became distant, claiming it was for the baby's safety. I tried everything to reassure her, even got our doctor to talk to her, but she was adamant. Despite my growing suspicions, I supported her through everything, attending classes, comforting her mood swings. My business was thriving. I hired a recent grad, Greg, and a receptionist, May. I didn't talk much about work with Jen. She just didn't seem interested. One afternoon, I was with a client when the call came. Jen was having the babies. Right now. I rushed to the hospital, already prepared. I helped her into the car, grabbed her bag, and most importantly, a DNA kit. At the hospital, they put her in a private room. Even with my doubts, I was so excited to be a father. The doctor told me to go home and rest, they'd call. I tried to sleep, but the hospital called at 2:30 a.m. Contractions were every 7 minutes. I raced back. I walked into the delivery room just as our first baby was born, then the second. While the nurse confirmed they were healthy, I quietly collected swabs from each for the DNA test. I needed to know. I shared a quiet moment with Jen. I thought I saw a hint of sadness in her eyes as she told me she loved me. The next day, I called everyone with the wonderful news. Grandparents were overjoyed. Patty and Amy planned to visit. I brought Jen flowers and dropped off the DNA kit. They said the results would take about 10 days. Jen had complications, so she stayed a few more days. I visited daily, but she was distant, quiet. The doctor just said it happens sometimes. That Saturday morning, I went to pick them up. Her room was empty. My heart slammed against my ribs. Where are my wife and children? I asked the nurse. She looked uncomfortable. They already left, she said, with another man. Confusion turned to pure shock. I tried calling Jen, but nothing. The head nurse got security, then the police. 2 detectives took me to the security room. The footage showed Jen leaving willingly with him. They wouldn't tell me who he was. Just sent me home. I sat there, sick with anxiety, waiting. Later that evening, the detectives returned. They wouldn't meet my eyes. Mr. Adams, the woman said, your wife has decided to leave you. She's taken the children with her. Her attorney will contact you soon. Please don't do anything rash. Then they left. Just like that. I was alone. Empty. My hand shook. I just cried. I felt utterly lost. Sunday morning, I tried to pull myself together. Called Jen's parents. Her dad was shocked. I treated myself to a huge meal at Denny's, trying to find some normalcy. But my mind just kept replaying everything. The betrayal. The children. The phone rang the next morning. It was Jen's lawyer. He wanted a meeting at 2 p.m. Maybe, just maybe, I'd get some answers. When I walked into his office, Jen was there. And Carl Prescott. Her boss. Just seeing them made my blood run cold. The lawyer spoke first. Mr. Adams, we're here to discuss the terms of your divorce. Your wife and Mr. Prescott propose irreconcilable differences. You'd keep the house, your retirement, your business. She keeps her things. And you sign a document allowing Mr. Prescott to adopt the children. In return, Mr. Prescott will deposit $2 million into an account of your choosing. My jaw dropped. I stood up so fast I nearly knocked over the desk. There is no way I will agree to this. You can keep Jen. I want nothing to do with her. Jen stood up, surprisingly calm. Mark, I never wanted to hurt you. I'm sorry for the pain. Carl and we've been seeing each other. He can't have children, so he wants to adopt ours. The kids would have everything they need. A nice home, a good education, a great life. What can you give them? An old house and a small repair shop? You think I want out because you're struggling? Please consider the kids. If you don't sign, I'll make sure you face serious consequences. Losing your home, part of your income, your savings. You might never see your children again. Absolutely not, Jen. I shot back. That house is mine, you have no claim. My savings are barely anything, taking half won't affect me much. You make more money than I do, so any support payments would be minimal. I'm willing to support my children, even if I only see them on weekends. And without me, my business won't survive, so there's nothing for you to take. See you in court. I turned and walked out, leaving 3 stunned faces behind. I went straight to Denny's again, just to eat something. Back home, angry, I watched TV until after 11. Then a knock at the door. I was drowsy and didn't check. Bad mistake. 3 men burst in. I fought back, managed to push one, but then a sharp impact to my leg sent me down. My vision blurred. Now be compliant, the leader hissed, and sign the form, or we'll return. With a last surge of adrenaline, I pushed him away. Then, darkness. I woke up to blurry shapes and vague voices. I drifted in and out. The next time, sunlight streamed through the window. It was Cam, my MMA coach Phil's wife, reading in an armchair. My throat was so dry I could only croak. She called a nurse. Ice chips never tasted so good. Cam was on the phone. Glad you're awake, Mark. You gave us quite a scare. A doctor came in. You were in a coma for 3 days, but you're on the right track. When Phil arrived, he explained everything. A neighbor had noticed my open front door, found me, and called an ambulance. The police found Phil's number on my phone. He or Kim had been by my side ever since. I had broken bones, serious damage. When he said I was otherwise fine, I tried to laugh, but it made me cough. The pain was still there. Once the doctor said I was out of danger, a detective, Graham Coles, came in. I told him everything. He was especially interested in the message from the attacker. He carefully packed up a handkerchief with my DNA sample. The next day, Phil offered me a place to stay while I recovered. I asked him to grab my mail from home. And then, the big question, did he know a good divorce lawyer? He did. A nurse came to change my dressings. Everything looked good. Then, my new lawyer, Grace Miles, walked in with Phil. We discussed my situation. She assured me I still had rights to see my children. After she left, Phil handed me the mail. I found the DNA results. I was upset at first. Then I started to laugh. A full, booming laugh. Neither child was mine. Jen had been unfaithful to me. And Carl, too. What a surprise. I called Grace, told her everything, and asked her to set up a meeting with Jen, Carl, and their lawyer. I've changed my mind, I said. I want to talk about a settlement. She arranged it for the next day, in a borrowed office at the hospital. The look on Jen's face when Phil wheeled me in was unforgettable. My arm and leg in casts, tubes still connected, my face showing the ordeal. She looked shocked. Carl just smirked. I looked at them. After a visit from some of your associates, I said, my voice dangerously calm, I've changed my mind. Don't pretend you didn't set this up, Carl. The last words said to me were sign the papers. Why would anyone else say that? I continued, my lawyer has created a new document for me to sign, which allows you to adopt the children. But without the $2 million incentive. My lawyer explained your document made it seem like I was selling the children, which could have led to serious legal trouble for me. So, nice try. I handed the document to their lawyer, who looked uneasy. My lawyer and I have put together a new proposal for you to review. Grace handed them copies. This agreement is very different from your proposal. Let me break it down for you. I keep my house and everything in it, including my wife's jewelry, my savings, my business, and both cars. She will also deposit the amount in her secret account, about $18,000, into my lawyer's trust account. You can't do that. Jen shrieked, her face red. That money is mine. I earned it. Carl gave her a strange look. He clearly didn't know about the secret account. I figured this was the beginning of their end. He gently pushed her back into her seat, still smirking at me. Be quiet. You're not part of this conversation right now. Everyone else was trying to hide smiles except Phil, who chuckled quietly. Jen turned pale, but stayed silent. As I was saying, I continued, since she earns more than I do, she will also provide spousal support of $2,500 a month into my lawyer's account. Also, regarding the company you both work for, this is compensation for the role you played in breaking up my marriage and for what I've endured. I need you to pay me $10 million after tax into my lawyer's account. You'll also cover all my medical bills, legal fees, and the costs for my future care. My lawyer will decide the total amount. This all needs to be done by 5 p.m. this Friday. Carl just laughed. Hard. You're out of your mind. Why should we pay you anything? We got what we wanted, so leave us alone. I'm asking for 20%, I stated. 20%, he scoffed. What does that even mean? That's how much money you might lose in the first 2 years after a legal case associated with your company, regarding my marriage and the custody of my children. Did you just make that figure up? No, I replied. I looked into your clients and what they pay. It's all public information, so it's easy to verify. Just think about how this will affect your father's campaign for Congress. He's running on family values. Plus, you have many notable clients. If they catch wind of any scandal, they'll leave you in a heartbeat. Then there's your advertising side, with children's clothing stores, a baby product company, and a sportswear brand. They will distance themselves quickly if things go wrong. When it all falls apart, there will be a board meeting, and you'll be the one taking the blame. So you see, $10 million is a small price to pay. Suddenly, Carl's smile faded. He looked worried. My lawyer will send you the total amount, and it better be in her account by Friday at 5 p.m. Silence. I could tell Carl was still weighing his options. Oh, and Carl, I added, if you think disappearing will help, think again. I've shared the whole story with 5 lawyers out of state. If anything happens to me, they will report it. I could see I was right about what he was thinking. He looked defeated. As we wheeled out, I called back, 5 p.m. Friday. Once we were back in my room, Grace asked why I had changed my mind about Carl adopting my children when I seemed so against it before. I handed her the DNA test results. She looked at them, then started laughing. You sly trickster. The kids aren't yours. Whose are they? I don't know, I said, but I plan to find out. This shows she was unfaithful to me and Carl at the same time. And when I find out, I will ensure Carl finds out too. Mark, I really wouldn't want to get on your bad side, Grace said, shaking her head. You should have been a lawyer. You would have excelled at it. The doctor said I could go home the next day if someone could help me. Phil and Cam offered, and that's where I went. Friday came, and I waited eagerly for 5 p.m. I didn't need to worry. At 3:30, Grace called. The money was in my account. $10,861,312. I was doing well financially, much better than before. Life moved on. After 8 weeks of recovery at my friend's place, I returned to my house. But it felt empty sad. I decided to move closer to the person I cared about most, my sister. I gave my business to May and Greg, along with all the earnings they had made. They deserved it. I gave Phil and Kim a check for $500,000. They tried to refuse, but I insisted it was Carl's money covering my care. I told them I was moving to New York. Phil hesitated, then told me his oldest son, Eric, an engineer, needed a place for his pregnant girlfriend. I was happy to help. I told Phil to set the rent based on what they could afford. He could use my house as a wedding gift for his son. Kim embraced me, and Phil had tears in his eyes. I called Patty, and she was thrilled. 3 weeks later, I closed the door of my old house for the last time. I left the keys in Jen's old car title with Phil, telling him it was another wedding gift for Eric. After a relaxing 2-week road trip, I arrived at Patty's place. She hugged me tight. That night, she said we were going out for a casual dinner with a friend. When we got to the diner, I realized it was a setup. Waiting for us was Jen's sister, Amy. I was surprised, but I couldn't stay mad at Patty for long. Amy stood up, hugged Patty, then hugged me too. She expressed her discontent with Jen and hoped for fairness. Amy lived nearby, worked in advertising. The night turned out great. Amy was the first to pull me onto the dance floor. We danced, laughed. Patty smiled. You two looked great together. Just like a couple. Amy blushed. I danced with both of them the rest of the night. The next day, we went house hunting. I found a 3-bedroom starter home in a safe, gated community. It had a nice pool, a gym, even a babysitting service. Patty loved it. Amy and Patty helped me furnish and decorate, making it feel warm and welcoming. I set up my office, building a high-end computer. We threw a housewarming party, and I met tons of new people. Amy and I grew closer, more than just friends. One night, Patty canceled on us for the theater, so Amy and I went alone. During the play, Amy surprised me by holding my hand. It was sweet, intimate. After the play, as I walked her to her door, she laughed. Well, in that case, you should stay the night. She smiled warmly, took my hand, and led me inside. What does a girl have to do to get you to make a move? She playfully asked. I've waited long enough. It had been a long time since I'd felt such a connection. We both felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness, then pure joy. We talked for hours the next day. Amy confessed she'd been attracted to me from the moment we met and had even envied Jen. After my breakup, she confided in Patty, and they'd planned for us to be together tonight. I explained I'd liked her too, but didn't want to seem disrespectful. We laughed about their elaborate plan. Amy texted Patty, confirming it had worked. Amy was so different from her sister. Easygoing, understanding. We just clicked. Patty noticed it too, and she was thrilled for us. Meanwhile, my software project was finally done. It was adaptable for military, gaming, aviation, even cars. I reached out to a top gaming company. They were skeptical at first, but after seeing my approach, they asked for a 3-month trial. After the trial, they wanted to buy the patents. They offered a generous $120 million. I turned them down. I wanted to sell them the rights for 10 years for $50 million, plus a 1% share on all products using my technology. After hours of negotiation, we settled on $65 million, plus 5%, over 10 years. Contract signed. I made similar agreements with military suppliers, civil aviation, even a major car manufacturer. In total, I was now worth over $250 million after taxes, with projections showing over $350 million in 10 years. I could hardly believe it. Amy and I were living together now. It had been just over a year since I left to start a new life. It was time to confront those who had hurt me. Amy fully supported it. We brainstormed. Just after dinner, the phone rang. It was the assistant district attorney from Freestone, Texas. They'd caught the men who attacked me. They wanted me to speak in court in 3 weeks. Yes, of course. Amy insisted on coming. We made it a vacation. We flew to Texas. Phil picked us up. To thank them, we took Phil and Cam to a fancy restaurant I couldn't have afforded before. We arrived in a limo. I wanted it special. As we ate, I noticed Jen and Carl at another table. Amy and Cam excused themselves to go to the restroom, walking right past them. I saw Amy stop, say hello to Jen, and point to Phil and me. Jen looked shocked. Amy said something else, Cam laughed, and they walked away. Jen and Carl hurried out of the restaurant. When the ladies returned, I had to know what Amy said. Cam explained that Amy had greeted Jen, then asked who she was with. Amy replied, "I'm with another millionaire sitting over there," pointing at me. She added, "I should thank you for leaving your husband. We were meant for each other. I just don't see what you see in this guy. You definitely made a downgrade." We spent the rest of the night laughing. Amy and I spent the next few days sightseeing. At a ranch, we learned to handle firearms. Amy, surprisingly, was more skilled than me. The night before the trial, we had dinner at Phil and Cam's. Phil shared exciting news. Eric was getting married in the spring. At the courthouse, the ADA told us the case was strong. They found the leader thanks to my DNA. He was a repeat offender and agreed to testify against his friends. Their trials would follow. None of them, however, would say anything about Carl Prescott. It seemed they were scared. I attended all 3 trials. The leader got 15 years for cooperation. The man I injured got 2 years. The other got 5. Phil and Kim drove us to the airport. As we said our goodbyes, I handed Phil an envelope. "Don't open it until we're in the air." Inside were the deeds to my old house, a wedding gift for his son. I knew how delicate marriage promises could be. Back home, I called Patty, inviting her out for dinner on Friday, keeping it a surprise from Amy. That Friday, a limousine picked us up. After a wonderful meal, a musician approached our table. As everyone watched, I got down on one knee. "Amy," I said, "will you marry me?" The joy on her face was priceless. She said yes, through happy tears, as the whole restaurant cheered. Patty hugged Amy warmly. We danced the night away. Our wedding was beautiful. Amy and Patty handled everything. I covered all expenses for out-of-town guests. It was a grand celebration. Phil and Kim told us they hadn't had so much fun in years. 9 months after we got back, our son James was born. A year later, his sister Sarah came along. We moved into a bigger house, still in the safe community. By then, I had become quite wealthy, a public figure attending charity events. People noticed us, calling us the perfect couple. As time passed, I never forgot my plan. What they had done to me still hurt. Nearly 9 years after my ex-wife left me, it was time for phase 1. For the past 5 years, I had a private investigator gathering information on Jen and Carl and anyone close to them. Especially Jen's former boss, Troy Simmons. I suspected he was the father of the twins. The PI found some surprising things. First, the twins were Troy's, just as I suspected. Second, Jen was still in contact with Troy, along with 2 other men. Third, Carl was involved with his assistant and various others while he was away. I set my plan in motion. I sent Carl proof that the twins were not mine, along with a note explaining the situation. This showed Jen had been unfaithful to both me and Carl. I also included details about her other relationships. Then I waited. About 2 months later, Phil called. Carl had kicked Jen out. He used their agreement to keep the children, as he had adopted them. Jen left with nothing. No one knew where she was. Amy called her parents. Her dad had sent Jen some money, but told her not to reach out again. Phase 1 was complete. Jen now understood how it felt to be betrayed and lose her children. I figured she might still have her laptop, as her email was active. I decided to stir things up a bit and sent her the investigator's report about Carl, along with some photos of him with others. This might complicate her divorce even more. A few days later, the security gate intercom buzzed. The guard asked if Mrs. Prescott could come to our house. Amy and I looked at each other, confused. Amy said, "Let's hear what she has to say." A few minutes later, there was a knock. Amy opened it. A woman looking utterly distraught stood there. Her hair messy, clothes unkempt. Amy invited her in. She couldn't meet my gaze. Amy offered her coffee, which she gratefully accepted. She sat down. I decided to start. "You look unwell. What happened to you?" That question broke her. She cried for 10 minutes straight. Then, through tears, she explained. He found out the twins weren't yours and that I'd been seeing Troy while I was with him. It didn't take long for him to figure it out. Then he discovered I was still seeing Troy after we got married. He got really upset and asked me to leave. I only had what I was wearing. Fortunately, I still had my car keys and some money in my account, so I found a room at a motel. But no one wanted to talk to me after everything. I had no friends. My family wanted nothing to do with me. I tried calling his father, Barry. He told me he didn't need me anymore since he had a new heir. I called my dad and he finally agreed to help. He sent me some money, but told me not to reach out again. I had nowhere else to go, so I used my last bit of money to come here, hoping Amy would assist me. I know you wouldn't want to help me, and I don't blame you. I'm really sorry for how I acted. I was selfish and hurtful, and I deserve what happened to me. But I miss my kids and want them back. I may not have been a good wife, but I tried to be a good mother. She looked at us, a sad, rehearsed expression on her face. Despite my anger, I felt some sympathy. I also felt frustrated with Carl for being the cause of my pain. I'd deal with him later. Amy asked if she was hungry. Jen hadn't eaten in 2 days. Amy made her breakfast. After she ate, Amy showed her to a guest bedroom so she could shower. While Jen was in there, Amy and I talked. Amy felt compelled to help because Jen was her sister. I agreed, mainly because it would annoy Carl to see Jen getting back on her feet. Jen came downstairs looking much better. We shared the good news. She cried again, this time tears of relief. The next morning, she had coffee and toast ready for us. Mark, she said, I really didn't expect this kind of welcome. I'm so grateful. Jen, I said, what you did was very hurtful, and you now see how much it affected your family. I think you understand the pain you caused me. However, thanks to Amy and the love we share, I believe I can forgive you. I will never forget what happened, but I won't focus on it anymore. I don't want you to apologize anymore. That part of our lives is done and a new chapter has begun. Go shopping with Amy this morning. I'll look for a place for you to stay. I found a 1-bedroom furnished home available for rent just 2 streets away. I paid for a year upfront. When the girls came back with tons of clothes, I shared the good news. Amy smiled. Jen hugged me, tears streaming down her face. I really don't know what I was thinking when I messed up our marriage, she sobbed. I should have never let you go. Amy, please take care of him. You will never find a better man, and I know I won't. She ran upstairs. Alone with Amy, I shared my plans to help Jen and to get back at Carl and his father. The next day, we helped Jen move into her new place. To help her feel independent, we gave her $10,000 and a credit card with a $1,000 monthly limit. Amy and I decided to help her with her divorce. I made an appointment with a lawyer Patty recommended, Brian Scott. I explained Jen's situation. He agreed to take her case. Our main goal was to help Jen get her children back. I told Brian I had allowed Carl to adopt the children, but that I had turned down $2 million for them. Instead, I wanted $10 million as a settlement for mistreatment from both Carl and his advertising company. I had signed an agreement to keep the company's name out of the divorce for that money. Brian asked if I could prove the children were not mine. I showed him the DNA reports. Troy Simmons was the biological father. The adoption was invalid. Carl had no legal claim. Jen could get them back. I wasn't doing this just to help Jen. It would also affect Carl and his father. I had no intention of harming the children. I knew they were cared for. They simply needed someone who shared their last name to keep the family business going. Brian said I could count on him. That night, I shared everything with Amy. She fully supported my decision. We invited Jen over. She seemed nervous until I explained my plan. She expressed gratitude, and we reassured each other. A few days later, Brian called. He wanted me to bring Jen to his office. He laid out his plan. 1. File to end the adoption. 2. Report Carl and Barry Prescott to the DA for attempting illegal adoption and pressuring me. 3. State I was pressured because I wasn't the biological father, with DNA tests to prove it. 4. Jen would demand her children back immediately. 5. Sue Troy Simmons for pressuring Jen into an inappropriate work situation. 6. Sue Carl Prescott for pressuring Jen in her personal life. 7. Sue XYZ Advertising for allowing and promoting this unacceptable behavior by their CEO and executives. 8. Sue Troy Simmons for contributing to my marriage difficulties. 9. Sue Carl Prescott for causing damage to my marriage. 10. Sue XYZ Advertising for not enforcing ethical standards. He knew about the $10 million confidentiality agreement I had signed. I was prepared to repay it. This was a plan of retribution that even I hadn't fully anticipated. I told Jen to prepare for difficult times. She accepted her role. I asked Brian to proceed as soon as possible. I also planned to share what I had learned about XYZ with the media. 2 weeks later, Brian began phase 2. A week after that, I sent all my gathered information to various media outlets. The process exploded. Media swarmed the courthouse and the homes of those involved. As anticipated, many of XYZ Advertising's clients canceled or threatened to. This forced an emergency board meeting. Troy Simmons was dismissed without severance. Both Carl and Barry Prescott had to resign to mitigate the loss of their valuable clients. They also agreed to offer significant settlements to both Jen and me. With the anticipated settlement from my other legal actions, I would more than cover the $10 million I owed for not remaining silent. Out of all this chaos came an unexpected outcome for the American public. Congressman Barry Prescott had to resign due to health issues, especially since his campaign focused on family values. Shortly after, questions arose about how he had used his campaign funds. He'd used campaign money for vacation cruises and various services. Now, he faced a special committee and the FBI. Less than a month after I spoke to the press, all issues were resolved. Jen's children were returned to her. Soon after, Amy and I took Jen and the kids to her parents' house for a meeting. I told her parents that I had forgiven Jen, and while we weren't exactly friends, we were on good terms. I hoped they could forgive her too. The fact that they were seeing their grandchildren for the first time made the moment even more special. Barry Prescott was found guilty of misusing campaign funds and served 3 years in prison. I finally got back at Carl Prescott for his wrongdoings. He was found guilty of attempting to buy 2 babies and misappropriating company funds. They discovered 2 secret bank accounts filled with money that had been transferred from his office. I wondered how that happened. He received 5 years in prison, 2 years longer, because he wouldn't disclose the whereabouts of the other missing funds. The truth was, he didn't know. I had arranged for them to be concealed as a final act of retribution for what he did to me. I even facilitated his placement with a problematic inmate. Jen moved to a bigger house, passed her bar exams, and worked at the same law firm as Patty. We sometimes watched each other's children, but never spent time together outside of that. To this day, Jen hasn't gone on any dates. She is focused on her job and taking care of her children. It's amazing how life can twist and turn. From the crushing betrayal to the meticulous planning, from losing everything to gaining more than I could ever imagine. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my life, my dignity, and finding true happiness with someone who genuinely loves me. Every painful step led me to exactly where I needed to be. And sometimes, the most devastating endings lead to the most beautiful new beginnings.